Adam Hansen, no need to introduce, I believe. Adam, how you like it in Czech? You know, I'm looking around here, these beautiful mountains. How long are you living in Czech?
A very long time, almost 20 years actually.
20 years? Mm-hmm. So, what brought you here, girl? Or the place?
Bit of everything actually. Like I started racing in Austria, which is very close to Czech. And we had Czech riders and Czech soigneurs and also Czech DS. And then, I spent more time here and I did meet a girl here, so I moved here for this reason. But the reason why I stayed here, because it was actually very convenient for me. Training here is, I think, one of the best places in Europe. There's so few cars here, which is really good. And there's so many different ways. You have Lisa Horror, which everyone knows, it's a very steep mountain. You have Pustevny, which is great. I like when you go towards the ridge of Slovakia, in Czechoslovakia, this is beautiful. And training here for me is really good. Back in those days when I was racing, Ostrava Airport was going full gas with the flights. So we had lots of flights, connections and that. And then you have Ostrava, so you have everything you can buy there. So you're here in the country, you have really good air flights and you have really good training and you have a city to buy everything. So it made good sense at the time.
So you get area with, I would say, packed with the pro riders, not really known, but we get a bunch of the guys within, let's say, 80, 100 kilometers around you. Did you train particularly with some guys from here, or you've been training alone here?
Normally I train alone. I did train a bit with Josef, who still races today for Quickstep. So
Josef Černý.
Yep, Josef Černý. And here, that's with the road riders. My closest friend in professional cycling was Ripon, Frankie Sock, but he's in Pilsen, so there was no chance. Everyone thought we're neighbours, but we weren't. But generally, I like training alone. I train very Pacific, so I had a pretty tight schedule.
Look, when I follow your career, we probably all know 20 Tour de France. Have you been thinking about that thing before it happens, or it happens after you did the 3 in a row?
Yeah, so I started with 3 in a row, and I really liked challenges, and to me this was the ultimate challenge, 3 Grand Tours in a row. And then after I was like, okay, I liked it, I'll do another year of it. It was never an idea to do as many as possible. And I did it again. And when I asked the DSs, they thought I was joking. I said, no, I want to do it again. And also, it was a lot of racing, but it's also a lot of time at home. So I think I only did like 10 races a year, if you count as full races. So I only had 10 travel days a year, which is also huge for me because I get more time at home. And I had big breaks between races because I never liked when you come home for 3 days and you go away for 1 day or 2 days, come home for 3 or 4 days, and this type of routine where I could do a Grand Tour, home for 3 or 4 weeks, do another Grand Tour, home for 3 or 4 weeks, another Grand Tour. And to me, this was, I really like this way of training and resting and recovering that and getting back into it. And then as the years got on, someone said, the record is, back then it was, I think it was 13.
I think I was reading 13 or 12.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, impossible. And then I got close to it, and because I thought first you get sick, or you crash out, or you don't get selected, or you just do not make the time cut. There's so many variables of not completing it. And as it got closer and closer, on the 13th one, I think it was, I dislocated my shoulder on stage 2, and I thought I was out Tour de France. And I just made the time cut with these 6 guys that were involved in the crash. And in my head was like, this is it. Of course, I'm not meant to break the record, I was meant to stop. But then I finished that one, and then after that, it just got easier. So it was good.
Look, I mean, you did Crocodile Trophy, which is pretty much different kind of hardcore in my eyes. So there you care about yourself. If you're talking Ironman, not really easy. So what is your challenge, sporting challenge for future out of the professional sport? Do you have any actually?
That's a good question. Well, I put myself down for the Gravel Burn, which is a South Africa race. But there's also another racing series, maybe you've heard of VIA, where you ride A to B, and it's like 4,000 kilometers, this really extreme.
Yeah.
Last year it was in somewhere in Spain, and you go across Europe, where next year.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's got a strange name. And this year, 2025, it starts south of Italy and finishes, I think, north of Germany or somewhere. And you've got to have these key points, and there's 4,000 kilometers. You start when you all start together and you just complete something. Something like this I would really like to do. I think this would be, for me, because I don't sleep so much, I like these super long endurance sessions. I would like to try something like this.
What do you think about Lachlan Morton and around Australia?
I'm a little jealous of what he has set up. He has a really good deal. I think it's I like what he's doing. I think it's something different, and it's nice how Canada is supporting him. EF education also, but it's good. So yeah, there's not too many people like this, and he's really, let's say, pushing what humans can do, especially the trip around Australia. I feel more sorry for his support crew, because nothing worse driving maybe 14 hours every day just on a road straight. I think that'd be difficult for his support crew.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And also you say you don't sleep much, but sleeping deprivation on this kind of thing. Like a bit scared of falling asleep on a bike. How long you sleep, by the way? If you say, I don't sleep that long.
It varies, but sometimes, if I have 3 hours, it's okay. But normally, let's say 5 to 7 hours, but normally around the 5 hours. If I have longer, if I don't have such a good day, I feel like all sleepy the whole day. I actually like sleeping a bit short and keeps me on my edge a little.
What time you go to bed? Like 11?
Oh, well, actually, no. It's very rarely before 11. I think if I have my way and my partner sort of doesn't get into me, because she's always come to bed, and I was like, so normally I like around 2, I like to go to bed. To me, I'm really productive after 11 p.m. when everyone stops messaging me and I have some time for myself, and I go to my office and my workshop area. I'm just, I can be really productive. And then, 2 or 3 o'clock, that's for me my favorite part of the day.
5 hours. Oh, I do like 7, 8. If good, sometimes nothing. Adam, are you still working on your bike?
So this is a bit changed a little, but I've sort of moved projects. So I started working on a bike, and then because of COVID and that, I made a swimming pool. So I made an indoor swimming pool. So that was actually a nice project. And now I'm going back to the bike project. So we've got 2 different designs I'm working on. I just finished my new workshop, so this is starting up really soon. We're going to do a few things. 1, finish the triathlon bike, and 2, make more, let's say, more unique bike designs. To me, everything's going to like the UCI regulations, and I think there is, let's say, a crowd out there that wants something different, that doesn't race, that just do these coffee shop rides, and just doesn't want, your standard double triangle frame. And I sort of want to make bikes to these type of people that want something different.
So we're going more direction to, let's say, what Lotus been doing with Mike Burrows in ITs.
Yeah, something like this, something different. Every bike to me today looks almost the same.
I mean, it's kind of funny to watch some amateur cyclists following the UCI trends, including everything, because I don't see people driving to the shop in a Lewis Hamilton outfit, or you know what I mean. So especially with the bikes, or 3-spoke, 4-spoke, 5-spoke, who cares? Now, if you like it, you can ride it, because if you don't race, and there is very little racers, in my opinion, especially in this country. So you go to the edge. So the most important thing for you, look, take it from other hand. You've been kind of ahead of the bunch, let's say 10, 15 years ago, when you had your smaller handlebars, seat post, pretty much like people used in triathlon nowadays. All these things are normalized, and they're getting into the kind of mainstream. Cranksets getting shorter, people start to elaborate how they move. So how come you've been thinking about this thing when people have been thinking it's mad back then to have a small handlebars?
Yeah, well, for me, I don't think I was the best athlete. I think I worked the hardest, especially the training side. And also, for me, it was, how could we fix everything else? So yes, I wanted as narrow handlebars as possible. And at the time it was 38 centimeters. I was racing women's handlebars to get them as narrow as possible. I was the first rider to have a skin suit. I was racing with a skin suit. I even went to the lengths of taking our jersey and going to a company in Australia, and they made a direct copy of the high road jersey. I remember being in California, having Rolf Hardog put his hand around me, and then he was like, "What is this jersey?" And I was like, "It's I made it myself." It was like a full aero jersey. And he goes, "But is there a logo on that?" I said, "No, it's exactly the same. It says there's no logo from the Czech company here and that." He goes, "Uh-huh." And then the whole team had it after that because, we want to go as fast poles. So I was doing things like this. And it's to me, when I was racing, there was such this, one good thing about cycling is it has this historical base, but it's too much historical where they're sort of stuck in the ground. Now today, cycling is moving very, very fast, which is good. But for me, I was trying to find all these little things where I can improve and save energy. And because of my style of racing, it was more for the endurance and riding in the front. And anything I could save in wattage was a huge benefit for me. So I was trying to tick all the boxes. And it was, to me, it's kind of good to see teams follow it today, because I remember having a fight with my mechanic about a position, and where I wanted the handlebars really high and like this promontory position, I was pulled against it, and they called me Twin Towers because I had such a high position on my time trial bike at one stage, and the mechanics were against it and that. And then in the end, I see everyone doing it today, and then I have riders saying, "Hey, everyone's copying a design." I was like, "Yeah, it's just," but that's it's good in that sense, but it's a shame that it wasn't so welcome back in those days.
No, the factor must be also the numbers or exact measuring of something, because before was kind of difficult, right, to get into the aerodynamic tunnel and try this and that and spend the money.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a factor. Today, testing is much cheaper. We know how to test a lot easier. Just a simple SRM test on the track. You don't need a wind tunnel. You can get very good readings from the track. Wind tunnel testing is a lot cheaper today. I remember when we first went to the wind tunnel in high road, it was something like 40,000 crown an M, which is ludicrous. Where towards the end of my career, I was renting the wind tunnel in Prague, and I think I was paying 12,500 crown per day. It was just huge.
$500.
Yeah, it's massive difference. So yeah, things are getting cheaper, and if you can prove it on paper, then teams they follow.
What is your opinion about shortening the crank? So, for example, what you've been riding when you've been racer?
Well, I was riding long cranks. With the whole short crank thing, this is a huge debate.
It's a huge debate, obviously.
But for me, because I worked for a motion analyzing company, Limo, and we did a lot of testing on pelvic stability. And one thing that we found is a lot of riders do not have a very good connection from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the pedaling. So what happens is we had this MPI, which is dead spot score. So in a dead spot, it was sort of named a bit badly, but that's when you use a gyroscope on your shoe. There's a sensor, and when you're applying power, if it changed the axis of where the gyroscope is pointing, and that means your foot's not stable, so you don't have good contact. And when a saddle is too high, we found that riders did not have good contact to the bottom, and so they weren't pushing the power all the way through. And what I feel is with the short crank idea, what everyone's doing today is by having a shorter crank, you have better contact with the pedal. That fixes it instantly. Now, that's not the best way to do it. You should have a better position, maybe lower your saddle, maybe train it. There's different things we worked out how we can improve this, where the shorter crank is the fast answer to fix it. Now, it's not the right way to fix it because you're actually teaching bad habits. And also, we found when we did a lot of testing is when you reduce the RPM, it gives your body more time to be stable on the downstroke. So by going shorter crank, you by the same RPM, you think you're going the same leg speed, but because it's like a running track, when you're in the inside circle, you're actually going shorter distance. So you're actually moving a slower distance as someone going a bigger crank for leg speed. And by reducing that leg speed, you have better control also. So you might be thinking you're doing 100 cadences, say 175 or 170, but you're actually going much slower. And when we tested same crank lengths at different leg speeds, you're easier, more stable with a slower RPM. So it's another Band-Aid fix of fixing it. So it's not really addressing the problem, but it does improve your power output, but it's still not fixing the problem. You should be fixing the problem and you can maintain the same crank length, or you can go shorter, but also improve your cadence efficiency. So the idea there is good. I just think they're addressing it not the correct way. But this is a...
Yeah, because, like last year, big new, 165 Pogačar. This year, I'm going 165, I'm going 170, whatever. People are almost 2 meters. And I believe there is also aerodynamic factor and things, how you pack yourself on a bike and things, which most people don't deal with, right? It's...
Well, yeah, the biggest enemy against you is gravity, or aerodynamics. And if you have an aerodynamic position, you can save so many watts. You can, like up to 30 watts, you can save on a good position compared to a bad position.
So generally the bikes won't help you that much as your body do.
When we tested, it's number one is position. It's the number one thing. After that is the wheels. And then you go to skin suit frames and that. But position is huge. It's like people get the fastest bikes, fastest wheels, and they have, sit up very upright, and this defeats the purpose.
When you talk about Liamo, so imagine somebody come, this guy behind the camera, for example, to you, and what happened? What you gonna do with the guy? So you have certain things. I was looking at the web. There is some stuff on your bicycle. So you ride alone, or you ride with anybody? How does it work, this process?
Yeah, so the Lima product is 5 sensor kit. So you have sensors on your body, so you can measure your pelvic stability. And you probably heard the company also geobiomized with the pressure mapping system they have on the saddle. So this system here measures, because I like to relate it to this company because a lot of people know this company well. This relates, so they have this black line where it shows you stability of your pelvis. And what you want is you want your pelvis as stable as possible. So when you're applying the pressure, imagine your shoulders as your pelvic. When you're pushing, all that power is going forwards. You're not pushing backwards. So you have the body rock on your pelvic. So we had one sensor on your pelvic to measure your pelvic rock and pelvic rotation. So your rotation's this way and your rock is this way. And when a rider is too high, then he's rocking. So he's trying to reach for the bottom of the pedals. So that's what I meant before, that some riders cannot push the whole way through. And if they start to try and reach to the bottom, then they're losing the power there. So we use a pelvic sensor to measure the seat height. And what we want is as stable as possible, raise the seat until there's motion and a little bit back. So you got a really stable.
So talking the vision from back would be, this is the thing.
So more stable. So we want first, we want more stable. Now, every rider is different in terms of flexibility and how they should be on the bike. So we measured seat forward and back based on your pelvic rotation. So rock is reaching the pedals, and rotation is some riders can go really far forwards, but some don't have the flexibility or just the anatomy to do it. So we would test them moving forwards and backs and trying to find where they're most stable for them. Now, you can be a bike fitter and say, okay, we want that perfect track on, slam forwards to maximum power. You can aim for that position, but if they're not able to do it, move them back. And then you can have a physio program so they can do the position that you want. So it's not just putting them there and forcing them to ride. It's more that, okay, we want that position. So what we're going to do is go as far as possible for you. And then we're going to give you exercise so you can go more forwards. And then you can slowly adjust them. So that's just one sensor. And then you've got your thighs. And what's interesting with the thigh sensor is we worked out also that if a rider might be strong enough in the glutes and hamstrings and quads that the calf might not be able to handle the power. So what I mean by that is you're pushing with your thigh down, and then you're dropping your heel because you cannot hold that power. And we saw with the accelerometer on the Z sensor on your thigh, that power would be pushed and then it'll be sort of lost, because when the ankle goes, then the power's not going to the crank, it goes into your ankle joint because it's not fixed. And then normally around the 5 o'clock position, you gain strength again, you can hold it and then you can push it through. So then we address if it's a strength issue or if it's an efficiency issue to improve this. And then that was a major good thing about the thigh sensor. And then on the foot sensors, we would measure everything here in terms of the stability of the ankle, dead spot score, and also the engagement time. So some riders engage a lot earlier over the stroke and some engage a lot later, and also the pull-up time. So some riders, they pull up really late, around 3 o'clock, where you can see that the heel starts to come up, or some riders start to pull up around 7 o'clock, engage really early. So the sensors create this imagination of how the rider's riding, and we would do different tests of like high cadence, high strength, and a ramp. And we'll see because also what we found is when we do the high cadence test and also strength, riders would be in the position and they would do, let's say, high cadence or high strength. And at the high cadence, they can't hold that position. So what they're doing is they're trying to open up the hip joint. And especially when they're applying power, we would see that, okay, your position is maybe not good, because when you get to 330 watts to really push that power, you should actually be changing your pelvic, because you find the best power with your pelvic angle at a certain amount. And we could really pinpoint and correlate the two and even adjust rider's position based on just that test, which is really good because when you're doing let's say a bike fit, it's very static. And what I mean by that is it's one cadence, one power. Maybe you test different powers, but you don't know the range of the rider. And with this, it was very good to really look into the details and find the extra 2%. It's a very good system, but it's very complicated. And this is one of the worst things about it, because people are a bit afraid and they take a step back. But you can do a really good full analyze of it, and actually, after they do a bike fit, you can send them out in the mountains and see if they're really holding that, or they're really, because some riders also, when they do, let's say, a bike fit, they go into a position where they want to be in. Doesn't mean they can do it. And they can do it for half an hour. Yeah. Where this test we put them through, because we went sometimes 140% of their maximum, you see that, okay, they might want that position, but they can't do it. And we can see the position they actually move into. We say, that's what the position you should be in, or what you're good at the moment. And then we can address those other issues to move in the position where we want them to be at.
So the actual test is happening in laboratory and outside, so let's call it rollers or whatever, and then you can go for a real ride. Yeah. So and you have the sensors on the bicycle, and you're just kind of adjusting on the way, Yeah.
So we would, to do this protocol that we developed, we would do it first in a lab, just in a controlled environment, and do a high cadence, high power, and then the ramp. And the ramp is free cadence, so we want to see what the rider does, because we will force them through the different cadences and the high cadence, and the power we would force them to it. But when we say free cadence and you do the ramp, we compare his up to the down in the ramp to see where he fatigues and changes. And with this, we can see the rider's max RPM, because we can see how the body folds, and the max power he can hold, where the body folds and why he folds, and address those issues. So we give let's say, a physio program to address them. And then with the free cadence, we'll see, okay, what he prefers to ride at what cadence, and what muscle fatigue he is during the down part, and we'd compare those issues. And then we would sometimes adjust the position. So if he's trying to look for more power and he's standing more upright, then we adjust those issues. And then we send him outside and let him do his own training. And we'll compare the data to see if he's actually, would validate a lot of the things we see.
So, person in Czech can approach you or approach somebody from the company, or how does it work? Someone can reach out to me. There's there are partners in Czech that use it. But yeah, there's or you can have the system for yourself and try to work it out for yourself. Is there any workshop, like, you can apply for workshop and learn how to? I used to give a lot of webinars with this. So I don't do so much with this system now. But when people do reach out to me, I'm always willing to help. Perfect. Adam, if you start with positioning, set up the bicycle, what is the first point you should do? Like shoes, height, seat height, where would you start? Like to make it perfect? Because there's also a lot of talk about the stance and Q factors, and before nobody been really thinking about how part your feet are. Now you can buy pedals with a longer axle, stuff like that. For someone starting, it's very complicated. Seat height is the number one thing. You don't want to be overstretching. That's one thing. And you don't want to be too low to be inefficient. So seat height is the number one thing. And then you have to be comfortable on the bike. That is the number one key. So with the handlebars, it's always best to start in a non-extreme position. This is why we like the Lima protocol, because we would start in a non-extreme position and we could just keep pushing to see where the ride would crack, and then sort of take them back and say, okay, for you can hold that position in all the different protocols. But seat height is the first one. And when we spoke about
before about the forwards and back of the saddle is more to see what the rider can do. So that's why we test the pelvic rotation. So we move him forwards, and when he has, let's say he has some blockage or he's just not flexible enough, we can see the pelvic will pinch a little. So another one is when a rider is too low, sometimes he also pinches when the knee comes up too high, and we'd see the reaction of the pelvic and the accelerometer and the lemur. So we would try and address for comfortable position up high, and then would slowly adjust to see where his limitations are. So first is seat height is number one. You should put the cleats in the middle. I think that's a good starting point. It depends what type of rider you are. If you just want to be a high-powered rider with low RPM, not low, but like, let's say a little bit low RPM, it's generally good to have the cleat further back because it stabilizes your foot more, but it becomes too stable. So it's like, let's say a fighter aircraft. They're really not stable in the air. They're very dynamic. So an Airbus 380 is very stable in the air, but if you want it to move, it cannot move in a fast way. So it's like that with the cleat. If you move it to the back, it becomes very stable and easy to push that power. But if you want to sprint and be dynamic, it's not very good. So you want your cleat to be more forward. So you have to find what type of rider you are and what type of power output you want to do. If you're riding on the front and just like let's say a time trialist or a triathlete, just put out the same wattage, then you would go for more rear cleat position. Or if you're more dynamic and sprints and attacking, then you probably go for more forwards position. So it's more up to the rider what he wishes to be.
I mean, you've been doing your own shoes, still doing. How did you get to the point to make your shoes? And second, I noticed from news that you've been riding cleats on some shoes, as you said, really back, and some front. I mean, your work was different in different stages. How did you get along, like, changing the position? Because you have people who screaming when you pull like seat half a centimeter and they have tendonitis here and tendonitis there or whatever. And, for me, if you change, let's say, what are we talking, 2 centimeters, maybe 1.5?
I changed quite a lot. Well, I tested everything.
Yeah, so what was the biggest difference between the front and back position on your cleats? Let's say we're talking 3 centimeters.
Oh, much more.
Much more, 5 maybe?
Yeah.
So the seat height is affected how much?
The seat height.
So you've been literally moving all set up on a bike with the shoes.
For me, I need to know everything. I had to test everything. So why I made the shoes, I was a big fan of the DMT Velcro 3 straps because I have this bone on my foot, and that with the ratchet system, it would sit on the bone and create pain. And when the ratchet system came out, I didn't like it because it was not comfortable. So I was riding on the 3 straps they were very old shoes. A few riders like, hey, you have to get new shoes. I'm like, I can't get better shoes than this. And they were super light also. And then I thought, how hard can it be to make carbon shoes? And it was a nightmare of a job. So I made the soles, and this was pretty easy. And then I found someone here to do the top in fabric that they wanted 3 weeks waiting time, and that, and I couldn't wait. So I thought, okay, I'll make that on top myself. And I tried this, and this was a lot harder than I thought. But and I went through so many different models and types and prototypes and so many different ways of making it. And a shoe is very hard to make because with the bike frame, you have, let's say, male and female, and you have the mold, and that's it. And if you look inside of a frame, it's actually very ugly inside the frame. You see the tear off on the vacuum bag material, and it's not nice. Where a shoe has to be perfect on the inside because that's where your foot goes. It has to be cosmetic on the outside because that's how everyone rates the shoe. So in this sense, it was very difficult. But I did some, let's say, things you would not follow in the rule book in composites, and I worked out a way of making it nice on the outside but also perfect on the inside. And then I had the full freedom because I was making it sort of like, you have the questions about toe box, if the toe should be, the Italian foot design, if it should be like this or it should be open toe box, you have better blood flow. And then you had the toes raised also. So I was trying first I did the DMT mold of the shoe, how my foot was. And then I tried the different toe boxes, flat foot. I tried all the different designs with the cleats as far forwards, back. And for me, the sweet spot was more back than normal, not too extreme, because I did see one guy had it almost at the heel. Because when they did some testing in the UK on the track, and they found that some of the paracyclists that did not have, that lost their foot, were one of the most efficient cyclists because the ankle joint loses power. So the more you move the cleat back, the more stable the ankle joint becomes and the more power efficient you are. So I remember this one Austrian rider that had his cleats in the middle of his shoe, and he won, what was the name, a Tour of Austria stage. Kitzbühel. He destroyed the field by I think it was like 6 minutes or something, and he had the mid cleats. So I thought, okay, I have to test this. So I was testing this also, but this you cannot ride in a bunch. This was a nightmare. So yeah, so I was doing all the different tests, and for me, just more back than normal. So I couldn't use my position on normal shoes because they'd have to redo it. But that was for me more the stable position.
I remember in triathlon was kind of around 2010. A lot of people been experiencing, but you have a run after, so it's
a different
another idea about it. So you're still doing your shoe business?
So yeah, with the shoes, I'm actually I'm working with some World Tour riders now. So I have Tim Wellens. He's going to be the first rider that'll be using them hopefully this year. And I'm actually working on a different model now where I want them to be even more aerodynamic. I don't want now I have the lacing on the inside. What I want to do is have all this integrated, and I want the entry through the back. So I'm working on a system now where the entry is through the back, and the back would be where the heel is a bit more softer, open up, and the foot will go in from the back, and then the tightening system will be all underneath. So that's what I'm working on now, and this is a model that I want to release to riders. So Tim Wellens will be one of the first riders that will use it, and yeah, I think this is the direction I want to go with the shoe.
How much is the stack on your shoes?
The stack height? It's actually different for different riders. So I noticed with Tim Wellens, it was, I think it was 3.75 millimeters. It was really narrow. From his Shimano shoes, he had to drop 4 millimeters, he said, which was good news for me. But my stack height, I actually never measured it, because I always use my own shoes, so I didn't need to compare it to.
And you planning just same like a small production? Yeah. For person to person, literally like that? Yeah.
Well, the shoes are. It's a nightmare to make. I don't like to do it for people, because you have to take the mold of their foot, and then from that you must make like a plug, and then from that you make sort of like the sole. And the walls, but this plug doesn't come out of the shoe so easily, so it has to be from silicon, and this is a nightmare to make this. So you've got to make multiple molds just to make this mold, and then once you have that, you have let's say for first you've got to also make the cleat cover, so it's another mold, and then when you put that on the silicon mold, and then you put the cleat part on, then you make the sole and the walls, and then once you have that, you have the silicon mold, and it has to be silicon because it's got to come out. Otherwise you destroy the mold every time the cost goes up. So then you have that, then you have another mold of the top part, and that has to be with that shoe, because every shoe is different. Because you might have a light shoe, or just depending on the layers of the amount of carbon used or cover. And then you have a different mold for the top, and then once you do all that, you got to hope it fits. And what I mean by that is, you might have, like, let's say you have flesh in, that's okay, but then you have a bone that has no flesh there on top, and on carbon this can be very painful. So then you have to give Tim the shoe, and then he has to say, okay, I need more space here, and you got to go back and add some space, but not too much space. It's depending on what he likes, and it's just revision of all the molds, and then you have two shoes, so it's twice the mold. So it's nice when you, like when I gave him, I was at a training camp at UAE, and I gave him the shoes, and I remember I was in the elevator with all the UAE guys, it's light. I was like, yeah, and you give them one, and the rider's like, whoa, it's really unbelievable light. So with this factor, it's really good. So you do have the wow factor from the riders, and they really like this. So it's good to do it, but it's just so much work. It's really so much work. Where the reason why I want to get into frames is I think, there's less molds. It's much less molds.
I wouldn't say so. Amazing. Hella, what about your bike? What are you riding now? What is your bike, personal? Or what you prefer to ride?
So my bike now is a Factor.
Factor? So
I got a Factor. It's a gravel model. But I have road tires on it, so everyone thinks it's a road bike. And that's what I'm riding now. I was riding my Ridley. But then I did a race with it, and there was crashes everywhere, and I could just hear the carbon frames breaking, and I thought, I don't want to ride my Ridley anymore. I want to put it up on the wall, and so I thought, okay, I'll buy a different bike, but I'm not scared of crashing, so I got the Factor.
Do you watch like some gravel racing lately? Like you said, you're going to prepare for something. Did you see something like?
I haven't been watching much gravel racing actually. Oh, I watch not that I have to, but I watch a lot of road racing. So I don't have much time to watch more racing. But yeah, so I do road racing I watch. But just knowing that I crashed and really is like, no, I had to retire. Really.
What do you think about this gravel hype, like in general? Because like I would say, sales people favor this kind of bike a lot. Is it integrating into the road cycling? Because we see more and more of those things in the stage races or whatever races adding.
I don't know. I haven't been to a proper gravel race yet, so I don't know the let's say the atmosphere there. But I've been told it's amazing atmosphere. So it'd be interesting to see. I can see it be very different to the road atmosphere. I think that's very different. But I can't really say. But one side, I think it's maybe good for some riders because it takes away the numbers a little. Where on the road you can say, you train at 30 kilometers an hour and you do this, watts and that. Or gravel's like, you take that all the way because it's sort of off-road and it's, you don't know how hard the gravel is, so the speeds are different and you don't compare each other so much. And maybe it's more that openness environment. So, but I haven't spent so much time in the gravel scene, so I can't really comment. But I do understand the appeal for, Strada Bianchi, and it gives them a taste of that. And but it's, if it encourages people to ride more, it's good.
I believe because the cars are not there. That's like, for me, a ride in Prague on a road bike is like no go for me, like I'm just using gravel. I would ride a road bike, but I just want to have a little bit of peace,
Well, I'll totally understand this. And what's good about the gravel, let's say bikes are, you can use them on the road also. So, like, as I said, my bike is a Factor, the gravel version, but I have road tires on the Melbourne. And no one can tell the difference. It's actually a really nice looking gravel bike, and yeah, it's a bike that does two jobs.
Adam, thanks for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.